the Beatles from the beginning to the end. It's their solo careers. It's their humor. It's their incredible music. It's the British invasion. It's their American adversaries. It's an historical musical education. It's the Beatles and a whole lot more. A Beatles fan's paradise. It's BeatlesArama.com. Tune in. You'll love it. BeatlesArama TV is on the air. Well, hello, everybody. It's been a while. Pat Matthews welcoming all of you Beatle people to our show. And today is going to be our final show of 2020. And I couldn't think of a better guest to get, somebody I've been waiting to talk to for such a long time. And she is... we were talking about it, and she's going to explain about the Apple Scruff thing. You know, I said she was one of the Apple Scruffs, but then the Apple Scruff started, you know, like during the White Album. That's why the song is on the album, right? So anyway, let's bring into our show today a great lady. She's in Rio de Janeiro. Showed me the sights of Ipanema just a couple of minutes ago. What a beautiful sunset and a beautiful view from your house. Hello,
Yes.
Lizzie Bravo. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for asking. I have my bowling shirt on, and I'm not going bowling after this, but you never know.
It's a very, very, very hot night in Rio de Janeiro after a very, very, very hot day.
Really?
And,
well, that's right. It's
yeah, if
summertime.
my head is shining, it's because I'm sweating, but I had to turn the fan off, or otherwise it would, you know, interfere with the sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even, you know, it's going to be a lot hotter than this in the summer, but
it's not the summer yet.
Not full blast. It's going to be much hotter than
late spring kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. Well, so your season, you know, we're just going to be into winter soon. So when we're in winter, you're in summer.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. It's just hot. It's just Rio is hot most of the year, but you know, Sao Paulo, where my daughter lives, gets pretty cold. But over here,
did they postpone or cancel the carnival?
Apparently, yes. You know, I've read about it, but yeah, they have to because you know, COVID is going up here, so it would be crazy to have carnival, to have the New Year celebration with I don't know how many million people at the beach.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
I hope they do. I hope they do.
So let's straighten out for anybody, the audience, what's going on with, what about the Apple Scruff thing? That was just
No, well, yes. I was explaining to you that the Apple Scruffs, as you know, the name Apple Scruffs was was created by the girls themselves, not George, like it's on the internet. They gave themselves this name, and the Apple Scruffs as a group, you know, with that name started at, you know, the second half of 1969, even though some of the girls had been hanging around for years. And I used to hang around outside Apple, but I wasn't, since I left, I came back home at the end of October. You know, I wasn't there for a lot of the Apple Scruff action that happened afterwards. So, you know, I'm not one of the founding members. It's a very small group. But you know, the girls consider me an Apple Scruff, and I'm honored. And you know, when people say that Galen and myself were Apple Scruff singing across the universe, that's not true, because the Apple Scruffs didn't exist as with that name. Of course, the girls existed, but not with that name. So,
now, Galen and you traveled to London together, right?
No, she lived in London, and
she lived in London. Okay, but you joined her there, right?
No, she was one of my friends who stood outside the studios with me. Yeah, I arrived in London almost a year before. I arrived in London on February 14th, 1967. And on that same day, that same night, I saw all four Beatles and Brian Epstein because they were recording Sgt. Pepper. And I went with my friend Denise. I went out to be outside the studios, and I saw the four of them. That was very lucky, you know, the day I arrived. So it was quite a shock, I have to say. You know, one day you're at home with your parents, the next day you're looking at John, Paul, George, Ringo. And the first one I saw coming out was John, who is my favorite. And so I was 15 years old. So I was in shock, as you can imagine, But, so by the time, that's what a lot of people think, that Across the Universe was the first time I ever saw them. And it's not true. I had been seeing them almost every week. Used to see them. I know it sounds strange, but, my friends, the Apple Scruff friends and the other fans who, are not named Apple Scruffs, but, they were there for, one of my friends went to the filming of Help, so they go way back.
Right.
I forgot what I was saying.
That's okay.
No.
You got to be friends with them, though. I mean, it wasn't like the kind of things where, you were groupies hanging out by the...
No, well, first of all, people have to understand one thing. Groupie is a girl who goes to bed with the artist or people around them.
Of course.
So I didn't know any groupies. None of my friends were groupies.
All right.
And people always say, oh, Lizzie was friends with the Beatles. I never considered them I never considered that I was a friend of theirs, because you have to realize, for instance, when we went into the studio for Across the Universe, we were there for 15, 20 minutes and, rehearsing and trying out the microphones and stuff. And they went out to eat, and we stayed outside in the cold. Do you leave your friends outside in the cold while you go out to eat? No. So we were fans, we were fans who were very lucky, because we used to see them all the time. We could talk to them, we could get their autograph, you could take pictures. All of us have amazing, funny stories from seeing them so much. But
can you tell us a story that you'd never told anybody before?
No, there's no story that I never told anybody before. Well, I know that a few years, I haven't seen Paul, I haven't spoken to Paul since February 14th, 1990. I remember the February 14th because I first saw him on February 14th, 67.
Right.
But he was giving an interview. It was in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was giving an interview for the Brazilian press, because he was coming here for the first time to Maracanã Stadium.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was hired up, I'm a professional photographer, and so I was hired as a photographer to go to that interview. But when I got there, we went backstage, he was doing the sound check with the band, and we stayed in a small room. And his secretary at the time, Fiona, said to me, Lizzie, we're not allowing photographers, or our photographer is going to take pictures and send them to the record company in Brazil. But since I know you, you can leave your cameras with me and you can just, listen to the interview. So I sat there, I didn't ask any questions, and I wish I could, because I had probably better questions than the regular journalist. But
no doubt.
when this thing ended, he shook hands with everybody. And when he got to me, he shook my hand and stood there and said, why do I remember you? And the last time I saw him was in 1969, and this is 1990. So I said,
before, yeah.
So I said to him, because I sang with you on the same microphone. And he put his hand on his head, like he says, oh, yes, you were there. You were at Abbey Road. And he's, he just asked a few questions. How have you been? I said, well, I used to live in New York. I lived for 10 years in New York City. And I just said, I have a daughter, and, and I said I was a backup singer in Brazil. And, it was a lovely conversation, which I have on tape, believe it or not, because I was taping the interview and I forgot to turn the cassette tape off. So I have that. One day I have to, I have that small conversation. And the last thing he said to me is, are you coming to my show in Brazil? And I said, sure. But I have been trying to talk to him ever since, and nobody lets me anywhere near him. So. Oh, really? But a couple of things make me happy. Like one day, by accident, a friend of my late ex-husband saw him accidentally in São Paulo, at the venue. She was at the venue for some reason. And they just bumped into each other. And she has a lot of tattoos. She's my age, but she has a lot of tattoos. And he was asking her, what is this, through his interpreter. And then there was like this couple of seconds of silence. And then she said, I'm Lizzie's friend. And he said, oh, Lizzie, my Brazilian friend. She called me immediately. He said, what a coincidence. And then she called me on the cell phone and she said, this would just happen. I'm sorry I had to use your name, but I didn't know what to say to him. And I said, Monica, are you sure he called me a friend? I asked her like 3 times. She said, yes, he did say my Brazilian friend, because I couldn't believe it.
You see that? And the next time I run into Paul McCartney, I'm going to have to drop your name.
It's not going to do you any good. I gave up trying to see him. It's impossible. So,
but he's been to Sao Paulo
a million times. He's been many times, and the producers always give me comps. I go to all the shows, not all, but I go to many shows. I take my daughter. I take my granddaughter. But I've never been able to. I've sent notes and messages and stuff. But one thing makes me happy is that my friend, the producer, gave him my book, and he sat down and looked through it, and he was having fun. Of course, there's lots of pictures of him that he's never seen before. So
okay, so you told me before that your book was it from Rio to
Abbey Road? Yeah, that's
okay.
the.
So can you hold the book up now? I know that it's only been published in Portuguese, but when is it going to be in English?
Oh, here it is. It's a very heavy book, you see.
All right, well, you don't have to hold it up too long.
And it's a ton of pictures. It's over 200 pictures, and
And you have pictures
of
Ringo and George as well, right?
I'm sorry?
You have pictures of Ringo and George as well in there, right?
Yeah, I have pictures of Ringo and George and Paul. But the sad thing is that my pictures of Ringo, I only have a couple because, moving around from country to country, house to house, I lost all my Ringo negatives. So I only have like 3 pictures of Ringo in my book. And it's a shame because it's in my diaries. As you read the book, you see, I took a picture of Ringo, but there's no picture, I took a picture of Ringo, but I have very few pictures of Ringo. Yeah. And but I lost touch with a friend who was a Ringo fan at the time, and I used to give her copies of my photos. So one day, maybe when I find her, she can maybe scan the pictures and I'll have them again.
Yeah, that would be a great thing.
So my book is in Portuguese. It's a totally independent book. I went everywhere for many years trying to get a publisher. I went to Omnibus Press, they didn't want it. I went to HarperCollins, they didn't want it. I went everywhere.
You could have, you know what? I'm just saying this. If you would have talked to me, I would have been able to get you in touch. Do you know Bruce Spicer?
Yes.
Okay, because he self-publishes. He's got, I think he's got. It's called Pelican Press out of New Orleans, and I know he would have jumped at the chance to
look at this. This is his book, which I just got, and I have a whole page telling my story in his book.
I saw it. I read it. I have a very small one in there too, I think.
I haven't had a chance. It only got here a couple of days ago. I haven't had a chance to read it.
Yeah.
But I tried everything, and then I gave up, and I did it independently, and I'm happy I did because the woman at one of the publishing companies said, without reading a word, because I translated a portion of it to English to show, so my attorney friend in New York could show the record companies. She didn't read one line that I wrote, and she said, would you mind having a ghostwriter? And I said to him, forget this woman. A ghostwriter? I have my diaries, I have my notes, I have my photos, I have my memory, and somebody else is going to write it for me? Come on.
Yeah, why would they want that? That doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. So, so I did the 1,000 books because I'm crazy, because can you imagine what it costs to publish a book like that? And, I did a pre-order.
300 pages or something?
200 pages, yeah.
200 pages?
Coated paper. It's a hardcover coated paper, over 200 photos, and there's illustrations in just about every page,
I'd love to have it even though I can't read it.
A lot of people bought it. Over 200 people bought it, and the other day a guy wrote me. It was funny. He said, "Lizzie, I've memorized all the pictures. Please put the English book out because I need to read what you're saying."
Well, let me show you something.
Sure.
I got wait. I got to find it first. Okay, is this picture in it? Wait. I don't see it. Oh, there it is.
Oh yeah, of course. That's
you with John.
That's
right?
me and John. Yeah, I have a couple of pictures with John. They're all blurred, and
yeah, that's too bad.
No, yeah, that's fine. Better than nothing. But
this one came out pretty good.
No, that's not me. That's my friend. I took this photo.
Okay,
I took this photo. That's not me. That's my friend Nicia from Rio.
Okay.
That's not me.
And that looks like
Mal. It's
Mal
Paul and
Evans.
Mal. Yeah, I took 4 pictures of them, of her with Paul that night.
Right. I should have known that wasn't you, but you know.
Don't worry. But you know, so the 1,000 copies sold. I never put it in bookstores. I sold them myself. And you know, it's a labor of love because first of all, I scanned all the pictures and all the images in the book. It took me a long time. And then you have to work on the photos, you know, to make them better. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot, and you have to read the text I don't know how many times. It's a lot of work. So, and it came out, and even my granddaughter lent me money to finish paying for it, and really? I paid her back, of course. Yeah. So yeah, I have to say I have a grown granddaughter who's, you know, a woman. She's 27. So you know, but it was great to do it without any interference. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's me and my designer. My designer is my best friend. She's a photographer. She's a great designer. She's done over 100 books, and she's a Paul McCartney fan. So you know, we're on the same page, and it came out exactly as I wanted it. She's an amazing designer. What she did is just, it's a very different book, you know, the way the photos are displayed. And now, you know, I translated it to English last year.
Completely?
Yes. Oh, okay. I don't know how I managed, because at that time my brother and I were taking care of our mother with Alzheimer's. And, you know, people who go through this know she passed away in September. People who go through this know how hard it is, because you know they are restless, they want your attention all the time. But I managed to translate it, and I sent it to England to a friend of mine who writes for the BBC and is a good friend, and he was outside the studios with me, so he has the knowledge of being a writer and the remembrance of being outside the studios. So he corrected everything. I have read the correction. There's a few things that I changed, others I didn't. And now I'm putting together a few pictures that I found, because the book came out 5 years ago. So now I hope in the beginning of the year to put the book together with my designer from far away, you know, each one at her home. We're not going anywhere. And to have it out sometime in the first trimester of next year, hopefully. And I'll do the same thing. I'm going to have to do a pre-order so I can send it to the printers, and I do everything. I sign it, I put bubble wrap around it, I pack it, I go to the post office, and in a way I like that because it's such a connection with my readers, you know. You
sign it as well too, right?
Of course, yeah. There's a funny thing. The first book I signed, I wrote to I don't know who, Beatles Forever, Love, Lizzie. And then I said to myself, oh my God, I have to, every single book, I have to write Beatles Forever. Otherwise, because this person put it on Facebook. And I say, if I send the other ones out without the Beatles Forever, they're going to say, well, my book doesn't have Beatles Forever. So one thing is to sign one time Beatles Forever. The other is sign 1,000 times Beatles Forever. All right. But I had to. So,
you know, and that's interesting you say that, because I had a friend who passed away from AIDS in the late 70s. His name was Nick Schaffner, and he wrote a book called Beatles Forever. And,
I had that book. Oh, I have it somewhere.
Yeah. So I did a radio program based on his book, and we syndicated it for a little while, and then he passed away. And so, but it was funny that you signed Beatles Forever like that. But that reminded me of that story. So listen, we're going to take, I got like this one little commercial to play here. And then when we come back, we're going to hear you sing. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back. That's our eBay store in conjunction with the Beatles Kingdom. And that commercial was produced by Warren Brown. And I bet you know him too, right?
Who?
I'm
sorry?
Warren Brown. He's with the Beatles Kingdom. Yeah. Yeah. I think
I don't think I do.
Well, maybe he's just friends with you on Facebook or something.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
So. Yeah. Well, one thing I'd like to say is that I always say that because, you know, we used to see them almost every day. And they were so normal, you know, they were not like maybe some of the stars nowadays. They were very, I don't know, natural. You know, you'd be talking and, you know, I remember Paul used to read to me whenever there was something in the paper about Brazil. He used to tell me, did you read that there's, you know, floods going on in Rio de Janeiro? It's 40 degrees Celsius in Rio de Janeiro. Or don't you miss your mom? I was 15. Don't you miss your mom? And I would say no. You know, you tell a teenager that she can see the 4 Beatles every day, and you're going to think of your mom? I don't think so.
Did she know who the Beatles were at that time?
My mom, of course. Yeah. My mom was a huge Beatle fan, and so was my dad.
Oh, cool.
They both passed away, mom in September and dad in March. Sadly, both at 90. They had great, very full lives. But both of them were Beatle fans. My father...
I was never that lucky.
Oh, you know, my mother sent a gift for John. And and my father, he used to buy everything. He traveled a lot. He used to buy everything Beatles from the 60s until a very short time ago, before he got sick. Everything he saw, you know, on his trips, he'd say, "Oh, this book just came out. This one you don't have," or, you know, whatever. He bought me everything. In the 60s, he would buy me the sweatshirts and everything. He got me everything.
That's really great. And, you know, and I hate to bring this up, but I mean, you must have really been thrown for a loop when John Lennon died, right?
Listen, I only found out the next morning because of the time difference. You know, I woke up at 6 in the morning with one of my best friends banging on the door. And I woke up and I said, you know, what's wrong with this girl? Why is she banging on the door at 6 in the morning? And her face was red from crying. And she walked into the house, said, they killed John. And I said, are you not? I didn't believe it. I said, are you crazy? What are you talking about? But then I started trying to call friends abroad, and most of the phones were busy. And then I turned the TV on, and, you know, it was a very sad day, a very sad time. And that day, you know, all the press came to my house. You know, they wanted to see what I had to say or whatever. But I was just crying. I could barely say anything. And the next few days, I was a backing vocalist for many Brazilian groups, and I had to go on tour a few days later. So I remember being in Salvador, you know, in the north of Brazil, singing happy, beautiful songs and crying. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, that was a summertime for you too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to do is just to prove a couple of things, that John Lennon and Paul, you know, were both really nice people. And another thing a lot of people don't know is that during the Sgt. Pepper sessions, they actually recorded the song Across the Universe, which didn't appear until the Let It Be album. Okay. So they invited you and your friend, what was her name?
Gayleen,
into the studio because Paul wanted to know if you could hold a high note, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so here, let's see if we can actually hear this. I will hold the microphone up, and here is Lizzie and her friend
Gayleen
singing with John Lennon on Across the Universe.
Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world.
Okay,
so there you go. Well, actually, let me just correct you a bit. The song first came out on a charity album.
Yes.
Called, you know, Nothing's Gonna Change Our World.
Right.
And then later on, but the version on Get Back, on it. The only version that has our vocals is the one on that record, the World Wildlife, and then on the Rarities album and on Past Masters, where it is to this day.
That's not you on there?
Yeah, that's us.
Oh, okay. Because that one is the single that I played.
Yeah, but it's not on the album. You know, it's only on Past Masters and Rarities.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, and also there's also a version on the Naked album, and it's John Lennon.
That doesn't have us. No.
Yeah.
I sang for a portion. There were two microphones, and you know, I sang with John first for a long time, and then Paul switched. Paul called me to sing with him. He only sings the last thing, Jai Guru Deva, and I sang it with him. But they didn't use my voice; they only used his. But that's a portion of the time. Most of the time I was with John, and then the rest of the time with Paul. But George and Ringo were there, and George was lit an incense and was playing an Indian instrument, and Ringo was around too. And it was it was very nice because both of us were used to seeing them a lot, so we weren't like shrieking or going, oh, you know.
Were you nervous?
No, we were pretty. We were excited, but pretty normal, because if I'd never seen them before, it would have been very different. But we were used to seeing them.
You were 15 years old.
I was 16 by then.
Okay, 16. And never been kissed by John Lennon, right?
Of course not. People ask me that here in Brazil, because we're kisses and huggers. You know, we're Latin. And people say, well, didn't you kiss them? I said, you did not touch or kiss a British person in the 60s. I don't know about now, but he just did not do that. No, we didn't. Some of the girls may have kissed them. My friend Denise kissed Paul, but no, not me. I was too shy.
I had a girl on my show a couple of weeks ago, Emily, who called herself the Walrus, who had Paul McCartney sign her leg on stage, and she had a tattoo made of his signature.
Oh yeah, a lot of people do that. He signed a lot of people here in Brazil. I know several girls here in Brazil who have tattoos from going on stage with him. Yeah, they all do tattoos of the signatures.
So what do you have planned for the future besides selling your book in English?
Well, I have I was not so much active now, but I was a photographer in the music business here in Brazil, and I was a backing vocalist as well. So I always took my camera to recording sessions. I have a huge collection of unpublished photos of Brazilian musicians, and that's a project that's ready for a coffee table book of unpublished photos of Brazilian musicians. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to do, but I have to focus. Now I have to sell I have the 1,000 books in Portuguese, and to start advertising and that, and then the English book, and then I'll get to the photo. I have like, I don't know how many thousand negatives and slides to scan for my Brazilian musician book. I'm pretty busy.
Well, that's good. And you know what? I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us today.
My pleasure.
You are my last show for the year because my daughter's getting married next week.
Wow, and congratulations.
Yeah, so we're going to be away for a little bit, but defying all stay-at-home orders. No.
Yeah, I have a 49-year-old daughter who's a musical theater actress, a singer, and has a solo career, and I have my 27-year-old granddaughter who had been married before, but now she's marrying she lives in Italy. And this month, December, she's marrying an Italian musician, and we can't go there, which is very sad.
Yeah.
We can't go there.
Well, listen, I want to thank you again, and don't go away. I'm just going to say goodbye, but don't go away because I want to say goodbye to you off the air. Okay.
Okay. So
thank you,
it was
Lizzie
a pleasure,
Bravo.
and it was a pleasure. I listened to Beatlesarama a lot when it first came out.
What happened?
It was before Facebook, before all that.
Yeah, well, you could play it in the background while you're on Facebook. You know that, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. No, you can listen to it on Facebook.
Well, you know, I do have a thing on there on Facebook. It's on our Beatlesarama Radio Club
Oh, okay.
page,
Yeah.
and but you go to BeatlesArama.com and you can listen to it. I think what you were referring to when we first started, we were like on iTunes, internet radio and stuff. Now,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
now you have to have you know, some kind of search warrant to find iTunes internet radio because they've made it impossible to find. So yeah, if you go to BeatlesArama.com and just click on listen, and you can. All
Sure.
right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
So,
Lizzie.
okay, you take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
Okay, that's it. Lizzie Bravo. What a show, huh? So it's going to be archived to YouTube and everybody can watch. I'm Pat Matthews, and this has been great. And we want to see you again next year. Bye-bye. Happy holidays.